Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and I guess welcome back to me, back to the UK after an amazing 2 weeks in Japan. I've had the best time ever, and if you're following me on Instagram or Snapchat, you'll have seen some of the crazy and amazingly cool things that we got up to while we were in Japan. And a few of you were asking questions about how much things were, how expensive is it to actually travel in Japan. So I thought I'd do this video today just to kind of give you a bit of an idea of what we spent and how I found prices and stuff. I think that Japan has quite a reputation as being an expensive country. I certainly thought that before I went. It's actually put me off travelling there in the years before, even though it's been so high on my bucket list. And if you're on a backpacker budget, that's not what you want to hear. Anyway, I'm going to give you a full lowdown of what things cost, and then you can make your mind up for yourself whether you think it's expensive or not. Okay, food! The most important thing for me, so I'm going to start with food, obviously. I mean, to be honest, as with every country, it can be as cheap or as expensive as you like. If you want to eat in Michelin-star restaurants and spend £300 for a meal, then you can do that. But if you want to spend less, then obviously, like most people would, then you can also eat quite cheap as well. But on average, food can be quite an expensive thing in Japan, I found. Especially if you're in like the tourist areas and just seeing the popular sites, then you're going to start paying more for food than you would on some of the back streets. But that's just general knowledge for traveling. I mean, it goes without saying, right? So anyway, food. Obviously, sushi, ramen, everything that you'd expect from Japan is there, even better, even fresher, so tasty. But sushi can range in price massively depending on where you're eating. So one of the things that we found is if you eat sushi in a sort of conveyor belt style restaurant, or that comes on like the chutes and stuff, then it's really, really cheap, only around 100 yen for a plate. So you get like 3 pieces of sushi on there, for example. Or it can range up to about 200 yen. Now that's about 70p to £1.40, which is really reasonable. If you are saving money and you are on a bit of a budget, then obviously you can eat in the markets. The markets have incredible food and they're really, really tasty. So in Kyoto, we stumbled across a festival that had street food vendors lining the streets, and they sold all sorts of things like noodles, like these weird shrimp and octopus buns that were sort of like deep fried in a kind of donut. It was really strange. They eat a lot of fish in Japan, like there's so much seafood and weird seafood like octopus tentacles and stuff, so it's not all fish. So if you're a bit scared of seafood, then you might want to stick to noodles, but you should definitely try them because, well, when in Japan. So there it would only cost around 300 yen for a plate of food, which is really cheap. 300 yen is around £3? No, let me work this out. 1,000 yen is £7. So 500 yen is £3.50. So yeah, like £2. So that's really cheap. And that's the street food, and it was really good portion sizes. So they also do this cool dish called an oyaki, which is like a steamed bun. And in a steamed bun, there's loads of different fillings like azuki beans, or like pork or beef, or like hot and spicy mixed in vegetables and mushrooms, and they are so delicious. And I don't care if they're healthy or not because they are so tasty and really cheap. They're only 200 yen each. So when we were in the ski resort, we had these pretty much every day. Oh my god, they were just so good. So yeah, so in that sense, the food can be quite cheap, but then if you're going to restaurants where you're like dining out properly, or like having more of a fine dining experience and eating Western food, then that's when it's going to get more expensive for you. So if you eat local, eat Japanese, then you're probably only looking around £3 to £5 per dish, which is absolutely amazing. And then if you're going up from there, it could be anything between £20 to £30 per person. Our most expensive meal was in Hiroshima at a hotel, where we spent £40 on the meal, and that was for 2 mains and a starter that we shared. And it was good food, but that's more than we wanted to spend for a dinner. Ooh, before I forget, try, if you go into Japan, what's called a taiyaki. And these are fish-shaped pancakes and you can either buy them in stores or you can buy them hot and freshly crept from these market vendors, and they're only 150 yen, so it's like, what, £1.50? Oh god, the currency really freaks me out. And they're so tasty. They've got like custard cream filling, or you can have a zuki bean filling, but they're not that great. Get the custard, it's so good, and for 150 yen, you can't argue with that. So one tip I read about food in Japan before I went, and we did, and it saved us loads of money, was buying food in the 7-Eleven stores or from supermarkets. So it's not like going to the supermarket at home where you just have a load of raw ingredients and some crap ready meals that you have to pop in the microwave and zap. Ugh. These are incredible. It's like fresh made sushi and freshly made sort of tempura prawns and katsu curry and teriyaki, and oh, they're so good, and you can see them all being made fresh for you behind these glass walls of all the kitchen staff of the supermarket prepping these meals for you to just take away. And they're so cheap, they're only 350 yen on average per portion, and these are big boxes of food, like you'll be so full. So 350 yen is like £3. Ugh. Cheaper than getting food in restaurants, for example, and definitely great idea if you're on the go. Ah, yes. And sometimes you won't know exactly what you're eating, but that's okay because it generally tastes quite nice. I think that the Japanese tend to prefer pork over chicken when they make katsu, because I definitely ate a lot more pork than I would do normally. So if you're Jewish or Muslim and you don't eat pork, maybe avoid the meat, because I tended to find that the mystery meat was pork. Drinks. So I'm not the biggest drinker, so I mean I didn't spend that much on drinks while I was in Japan, but we did have wine and sake, which is like a Japanese rice wine, when we were over there, and generally it was around 500 to 700 yen a glass. And to be honest, that's not too bad. That's like £3.50 to £5, which is kind of what you'd expect to pay in the UK, probably just a little bit cheaper than but you do get a smaller portion. Beers around the same price, although in the ski resort we saw that there was a pint, or it might have even just been a bottle of beer for 1,000 yen, which is £7. So that's not really ideal and quite expensive. Weirdly though, we did notice on some menus that the alcoholic drinks were about the same price as the soft drinks, which I don't think makes any sense. Like if you wanted a Coca-Cola, it was like 350 yen, but then so was the wine. So we didn't get that, but that's just the price, I suppose. So traveling in Japan is awesome. You've got so many different options for how to get around cities, between the islands. So generally what we were doing is taking the subways when we're in the city, or the bus, and then we could have hired a car, but I mean I couldn't even read the signs, as it were. I didn't want to navigate a road system where I couldn't understand the signs, even with sat-nav. So we decided that we would travel everywhere by train. And who wouldn't want to travel on the Shinkansen bullet trains, which Japan is so famous for? The one thing I would definitely recommend that you do is buy a Japan Rail Pass before you go. So a Japan Rail Pass looks like this, and you can get them in either 7 days or 14 days or even 21 days, I think. And these babies cost £200 for 7 days unlimited train travel. Now I know that sounds like a lot, but when you're over there and you're traveling long distances, it really goes a long way. For example, we noticed that a one-way ticket from Tokyo to Osaka was 14,400 yen. So that is around £103 for one way. We took about 25 trains with these passes, so we definitely saved a lot of money by getting the Japan Rail passes beforehand. Now, I've just done a blog post about the Japan subway and train system, so if you want to read more about that, then the link is in the description below. But in general, if you've got a Japan Rail Pass, then you don't need to buy any more train tickets. However, you do need to buy subway tickets. So in Tokyo, subway tickets cost around 600 yen for a one-day rider, and that is 24 hours of unlimited subway travel in Tokyo, which is pretty decent. I mean, it's about £4 for the day, so you can't really complain at that, especially when in London it's like £8–9 for a day ticket. In Kyoto it's slightly different. You could get the bus more than you could get the trains because they only have really 2 subway lines there. And there's literally, it was so weird, it was like they have this subway system but they don't, because there was only so many places that you could go on them, and it was kind of disconnected, and it was definitely a better idea to get the bus. So we found that a one-way journey was around 200 yen to 240 yen, but you could get a unlimited 2-day pass for the bus and the train that basically lets you go anywhere you want, and that was 2,000 yen. So if you know that you're going to be doing over 10 journeys in that time, then that's definitely worth it. If not, just pay as you go. Just make sure you've got cash on you. So, accommodation. We stayed in a real variety of places when we were in Japan. We were in 5-star hotels, we were in hostels, and then we were in ryokans, which are the traditional Japanese inns, and they are definitely an experience that you have to have when you go to Japan. You sleep on futon beds. You might have seen it from my video when we were in the ski resort, and you have these little tables, and it's just really sweet. And do you know what? I'm missing that futon right now because Western beds are a little bit too soft for my back, it turns out. So the ryokans changed my life. But for first timers, and if you don't like a hard bed, they can seem like a weird experience, so maybe just book it for one night just to try it if you're not sure that you'll really enjoy it. But in general, ryokans cost around, well, it depends on the type that you stay in, I suppose. We paid £50 a night for ours, and it was like a mid-range kind of place. It wasn't real dirt cheap, but it wasn't super fancy either. So I thought that was pretty reasonable. And then the hostels can be about £20 to £30 a night. We booked all ours advance with either TripAdvisor or Booking.com, firstly because we wanted to make sure that we had somewhere to stay, but also I find that when you book in advance you get way better rates. So that's definitely something to look into for your trip. But then we stayed in some 4-star hotels that cost like £120 plus a night. It was just where we wanted to stay in Tokyo, and we just spread our budget equally amongst the different places. So I added it all up and we spent £750 in total for accommodation across the 2 weeks that we were in Japan. So between two, that's like £375 each, which to be honest, I think is pretty reasonable for 2 weeks holiday. So in that sense, Japan doesn't have to be that expensive. I mean, again, if you want to stay in just 5-star luxury, then you're going to be paying more. But if you're on a budget, you can definitely stay for a reasonable amount of money. So what else can you spend your money on in Japan? Well, loads of things. There's so much to do and so much going on, but luckily quite a lot of that stuff is free. So going to shrines, visiting the temples, just wandering around and soaking everything in, which to be honest is what we spent a lot of our time doing, is obviously free to do. And it's kind of the perfect way to spend your time there. You can just people watch and soak up the atmosphere and the energy of all the people in Tokyo, for example, and it's just so fun. And then obviously there's the things like the animal cafes, which are super fun and you should definitely go to. And we went to a cat cafe called Cafe Mocha, and it was on in Harajuku on Takashita Street, but there's quite a few different animal cafes, and I think they have like similar price ranges. So we actually paid 200 yen for every 10 minutes that we were there. So we were there for, I think the minimum is 30 minutes, so half an hour, and that's how long we actually stayed for. So 600 yen, which is about £4. So it's not really that much, but then when you're doing loads of different things, I guess it all adds up. One thing I would say is that we went to Universal Studios for a day, and the ticket price to get in was around £50, which I didn't think was that bad. It's not entirely unreasonable. To be honest, that is what I would expect to pay in America or for a theme park in the UK. But then when we got in, we realised how busy it was. So I'm talking ride queues for 180 minutes. It's like 3 hours of queuing to get onto one ride. And that is the most depressing thing ever. That's not how I want to spend my day. I hate queuing at the best of times, but I'm not going to queue for 3 hours out of choice. Ugh. So we were a bit disappointed with all of this. Now you can buy these kind of queue jump passes that are like express passes, and they have different levels available. So they've got ones for just 4 rides or 7 rides, and like different rides that are available, and you actually book in a time for when you're going to go, and you've got like a half an hour time slot when you can go and ride on these in between. And they cost around 30 to 70 pounds each per person for these express passes. And I have to say that we actually ended up buying one because firstly I hate queuing, but secondly I worked out that it was a false economy not getting the express passes, because you actually ended up spending more per ride on just the ticket price. So like £50 between 2 rides is like 25 quid each, whereas if an express pass you were paying about 10 to 15 pounds a ride. So it was cheaper per ride, but definitely more expensive for the day. So if you are planning on going to Universal, I would book an express pass, but I would definitely factor that into your budget. It was really fun, although everything is in Japanese, so it's a little bit weird as well if you just speak English. So all in all, I worked everything out, and here's the golden part that you came for. How much did I spend? So everything included, so flights, accommodation, my skiing, which might be a little bit more if you're not doing skiing when you're going to Japan, everything I paid for attractions, and just general things like if we got taxis somewhere, food, drinks. I bought a jumper, I bought a couple of other just random things and stuff to take home to family and friends. So my 2 weeks in Japan, including every single thing that I spent money on, came to £2,200 in total, which is what I expected to pay. I don't think that's that unreasonable. Works out on average of just over £1,000 per week. Now obviously that is quite a lot of money, but if you're saving and it's your big trip, then it's so worth it. You could definitely do it cheaper. That's just how much I spent, and that's not how much it would cost you. Remember, I was staying in some 4-star hotels, we had our ski hire and all these kind of extra bits that we wanted to do, and I didn't hold back on anything that I wanted to. If I wanted it, I bought it. That was my attitude on the holiday. So if I'd have really cut back and really budgeted, I could probably have done the 2 weeks on just under £1,500. I think it depends on how much you want to spend and just how much leeway you've got with your budget. So that's everything that I spent in Japan and how expensive I found it. If you've got any questions, then do let me know. I will answer any of them that you have. Let me know if you have a particular thing in mind that you wanted to do. I might have spotted it if I've not mentioned it here. So hopefully I've answered some of the questions you've got about Japan and how expensive it is. And I'll see you next time for the next video.